Hello, everyone. This is the first video in what's intended to be a fairly comprehensive series of informational videos about socionics, the personality type system, and its basic concepts, what's sort of the core of it, as well as portraits of the different types and the different pieces that comprise those types. What is socionics? Socionics is a 16 personality type system. That probably sounds familiar to many of you from Myers-Briggs or other similar systems. It has a few additional pieces to it, as well as just some variations in how things are defined. I think it'll be worth your while. I find it to be very useful, very descriptive, very true to life. But that's ultimately a judgment you'll have to make for yourself. Um, in this first video, I'll talk about the building blocks called the 8 information elements. And I'll also discuss a couple of variations of them that you see. So the names of these 8 information elements are familiar from other Jungian systems. They're NE for extroverted intuition, NI for introverted intuition, SE for extroverted sensing, SI for introverted sensing, FE for extroverted feeling or extroverted ethics, FI for introverted ethics, TE for extroverted logic or extroverted thinking, TI for introverted logic. And socionics, the definitions of these somewhat overlap with definitions in other systems, but I think are best taken as their own terms. Some are closer than others. Types are not quite translatable. Some types overlap more than others. But if you're coming into this from other systems, just try to listen to what the things mean and see where you might locate yourself, where you might locate people you know. So this is just a brief tour of what those 8 information elements are. Okay, so first, NE, extroverted intuition. That really refers to 2 different things, sort of a logical variant of it, an ethical variant of it. So the logical variant, NET, is basically a sense of conceptual novelty, conceptual exploration. You go out into the world of thoughts and ideas and theories, and you sort of find things there. You find new directions, you connect theories to each other. You sort of spontaneously discover stuff. And the other sort of extroverted intuition is NEF, this more person-oriented version, and that's more about personal potential, personal growth. What are all the things I might be? What are all the things I might do? What are all the things you might be? What are all the things you might do? This sense of personal abundance, being able to expand one's identity, one's interest, one's self-conception, and do that same thing for others. So those are the varieties of extroverted intuition. Introverted intuition, also 2 varieties of it, a logical and ethical one. The logical one, NIT, is really about this sense of where we came from and where we're going. This ability to see where you are in various real life narratives and be able to decide prudently based on that. That all the events you've experienced, all the evidence you've seen, that it sort of comes together and points to more and less plausible paths forward. So there's often this sense of being, maybe this sort of seer where you can sort of tell that things are going to happen because you're paying attention to it. And then there's NIF, introverted intuition of a more ethical variety, and that's just as this logical infused NI takes all the real world task-oriented stuff and forms it into a narrative and plausible directions. NIF, it takes this more human side, people's emotions, people's sense of self, people's personal journeys, and it really sees narratives around that. Uh, that it really tries to go deeper, beyond everyday things, and grapple firsthand with, what is it to be, where is my life going, where is your life going, how might we be all connected, what is there, uh, to open one's eyes to, figuratively, symbolically, spiritually, things like that. So that's intuition. Uh, the next set of information elements then, is sensing, the other kind of perception. Uh, Start with extroverted sensing. There's, as with intuition, two variants of that: a logical one and an ethical one. So SE, extroverted sensing, SET with logic. That's really about control, about command, about being able to impose oneself, uh, on one's surroundings, to be able to, create an order, to make things happen, to make someone obey you, to use authority confidently. So that's, probably different from some of what you've heard about what SE is before. Again, just keep an open mind and see where you locate yourself here. The other variety of SE, is SEF, it's ethical SE, is more just about the drive to act, just being full of this vigorous energy and exertion, the ability to push for things, to push through things, just having someone with this, natural personal power that gets used very naturally. And then there's introverted sensing, and two variants of that: a logical and an ethical one. SIT, introverted sensing with logic, is basically just classic attention to detail, really noticing the stuff around you, uh, being, in touch with which things, work and which doesn't, developing very, specific, inward preferences about it, often associated with having this, sense of, concrete aesthetic, as well as this, just bag of tricks for daily maintenance and managing one's life and doing things competently and well. And then there's the more ethical version, SIF, and that's more about being connected to your surroundings and connected to your body, being in the moment, having this, more emotional reaction to, coming from, the signals that your body is sending you, the signals that your surroundings are sending you, that you're, really paying attention to what that's all telling you, but at more of a gut emotional level, rather than at this more, I noticed this, I noticed that level. Um, so those are the sensing elements. So that's half the information elements. Now we proceed over to the other kinds, the judgments. So that would be FE, extroverted ethics; FI, introverted ethics; TE, extroverted logic; and TI, introverted logic. So for extroverted ethics, there's also two sorts of it. And here, we go back to the other side. There's an intuitive one and a sensory one. So FEN and FES. What FEN is there's sort of these, deep wells of emotionality inside a person that's really like trying to express something big, trying to express something about themselves, about the world. That sort of current, both inside and out, is FEN, this intuitive FE. It's this live emotionality that's really sort of directed at the core of stuff. Whereas FES is an emotionality that is less abstract. That's really tied to what's going on in one's body. That's tied to what's going on in one's surroundings. That these emotions just come at you and come out of you, and that leads to this sort of this vibrancy, this spontaneity, this life, this sense of someone who is really like experiencing things, and you can see that reflected through their emotionality. So then there's introverted ethics, and there's two sorts of that: an intuitive version and a sensory version. The sensory version, FIS, is really just about one's concrete preferences, one's likes and dislikes. This can be as simple as one's attitude toward a food, but more often than not, you're going to think about it as toward a person that you sort of know how you are oriented toward another person, that you think they're good, that you think they're bad, that you feel close to them, that you don't feel close to them. And it's important that it's this inner gut thing. And this can change over time. You don't have the same attitude about something forever, but it's about this set of attitudes being prominent, feeling real, being easy to access. And then the intuitive kind, FIN, that's really more about one's emotional self as a person. Who am I? What do I want? Who are you? What do you want? Being able to sort of see to someone's personhood, to see someone else like as they may see themselves, to really just understand if two people's personhoods are resonant, or if they're not, or if they've changed to being more or less resonant. And all of these are effortless. All of these information elements. It's not so much about strengths and weaknesses, though those terms are used. It's more about what's closer to the center and what's farther from the center. And the ones that are closer to the center, they'll often just happen. That's what you focus on. That's what you will naturally focus on without an effort to do otherwise. So then there are the logical elements. So there's extroverted logic mixed with intuition, extroverted logic mixed with sensing, TEN and TES. TEN is basically just a thought process, a decision-making process that's really based in evidence, in reality, in empiricism. That doesn't mean every decision made by TEN is going to be super great and totally objective, but it is a thought process that's aimed at that. It's looking to really evaluate everything that's around, and cut through it, and figure out the best course of action, figure out what's going to work or not. It's this very mental process. Whereas TES, it sort of takes this rationality and this goal orientation, and it moves it into the area of physical and sensory reality. That it attaches itself to what it's actually doing, sort of notes what's going on with it. Is this working? Is this not working? And so, what should I dynamically start doing right now to be more effective? Sort of this mode of constant work, constant thought, constant adjustment, but done in a way that makes sense with the surroundings. And then finally, there's TI, introverted logic, and there's two forms of that: an intuitive one and a sensory one. For the intuitive one, this is really about ordering one's thoughts, ordering one's intellectual approach, having sort of structured sentences in one's mind that determine, what is true and what is false, what is good and what is bad. And that's a thing for the introverted ethics also, but it comes from a different place. These are really things you can write down. Almost think about like writing a constitution, writing some laws. Uh, you know, if I believe this, then I really believe it, and I vetted the different circumstances. If I really claim to believe it, then it will be true in all cases. You don't just want to stop believing it just because. Whereas TIS, it takes the same sort of consistency, the same order, the same, you know, logical solidness, and it applies it to reality. This is someone whose actual life is very well ordered. It's about one's actions being grounded in these patterns of what someone says they will do. Really having these habits, feeling this physical weight of keeping promises, things like that. So that's just a quick tour through the associations of these 8 information elements with a couple variants each. What a socionics type is just the placement of these different information elements, and we'll get to that in the next video, as well as exploring that for the different specific types and how those all play off of each other in a later video.